You want to come join us?
You ready?
Oh, it's been on.
I was waiting for you to tell me to go. I don't know how to do it. All right. Just a minute ago, we got done making a little video about. Somebody asked me, why would you bother advancing a horse? And I was rambling on a bunch of nonsense. And the boss back there, she was giving me some sign language and this and that. And I tried to figure out what she was saying. And I said, oh, yeah, because I train horses. And so you make a horse better, and then they'll go to a better home. And we got all done, and she told me a story. This was the actual conversation she had with the kids this morning on the way to the barn. And so I'll tell you that story here in just a second and explain what it has to do with everything. But I got to tell you, got to kind of go back a little bit and tell you about this PonyBoy. So Tyler Bodie called me. This has been 6 years ago, probably 6, 7 years ago. Tyler Bodie called me, and he was helping put together a benefit auction for a cowboy somewhere in Kansas. I didn't know the guy, but he was a cowpuncher and on cowpuncher's wages, and his little baby girl had like RSV. I don't know what RSV is, but it sounded bad, and so they were doing a benefit auction to help the family out and everything. And Tyler called me, and he explained his mission, and I said, yeah, heck, I'm in. What do you need me to do? Donate some riding or donate some horses or auction something off? And he said, no, I've got everything gathered up. He says, but there's somebody donated this pony, this little bitty pony to the deal. And he says, my boy's been riding him. And he says, he's not very broke, but he's kind of a cool little pony. And Tyler knew I had 3 little ones. He said, this is something you could buy, help this deal out. And then you've got 3 little ones, you could get him a lot broker and sell him and make some money. Tyler's that kind of guy. He's always trying to make sure everybody gets a good out of the deal. And so I said, oh, yeah, okay. I said, I can't be there, but I'll call and bid over the phone. Now, the price of ponies at that time, and now, broke ponies, is high, and especially then it was. And I thought, well, there's no way I'll ever be able to afford this pony, but I'll just bid him up and then let somebody else. I'll just help the auction out and bid him up. So anyway, I got on the phone, the auction's going, and I'm bidding on the phone to Tyler, and I said, hit him again. And Tyler says, Brett, you're bidding against yourself. I said, I know I'm bidding against myself. I know how to do this. That pony's not up there high enough yet. And so anyway, I was the only one who bid on him. I just bid against myself up to $1,100. Got him bought. And so then I thought, well, crap. I gave $1,100 for a pony. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done, but maybe help somebody out. So anyway, so PonyBoy shows up, and I don't know, is PonyBoy that big at the withers?
Yeah, right there.
PonyBoy's about. I know he was small enough I could flank him like a calf. And I know that because I did it once. But anyway, PonyBoy shows up, and he was a nice pony. He was a kind pony, but he was a pony. He'd gotten away with some stuff, and he could get kind of crabby. But he was a blast to have around. Yeah, he just wasn't very broke. That was all it was. And that's the deal with most ponies, is that since they're little, people just take advantage of them. They don't ever get them broke. And that's why ponies get cranky and crappy like they are. And that's kind of how he was. So I sicked the kids on him, but we did a little different. Amy and I actually gave him lessons and told him what to do and how to advance him and yada, yada, yada. And over the course of the following few years, all 3 of the kids rode him. Of course, the oldest one, he was really too big for him when we got him, but he would ride him and tune him up once in a while for the other 2. Long story short, they got this little pot licker broke. I mean, he was neat. And my youngest had kind of outgrown him. He was riding some bigger horses by this point. And my friend Bryce Quinn, who works at the OROs, he's a cowboy and on cowboy wages. His little baby, and she was a little baby at that time, and she wasn't even quite big enough for PonyBoy yet, but Bryce wanted to get him before I realized that my kids had outgrown him and sold him off. Bryce, he's pretty on the ball there. And so he called me and he says, what do you got to have for that pony? And I said, God dang, I don't know. Let me think about it a little bit. So I hung up. And my thinking was, this pot licker's worth 10, 12, 15,000 if I take him to Shawnee or some of these, well, Shawnee's not a great example, but if I take him to some of these better sales, you know, for the right rich kid, this pony's worth a pile of money, and you know, Bryce dang sure can't afford what this horse is worth. And I scratched my head, and Bryce, he's not as patient as I am, so like a day or two later he called me up and he made me an offer, and I said, I'll take it. And that put me in a good position because you know, I wasn't sure what to do. Anyway, long story short, his little girl ends up with the pony, and she just loves him. And Bryce built a little old saddle kind of a deal for him, and I've got pictures somewhere. She was just barely big enough to walk, and she would be asleep on this pony in the yard, and he'd just be wandering around eating grass, doing whatever the heck ponies do. And she just loves him. And Bryce loves his daughter, as all daddies do, and PonyBoy loves the little girl. But it's a perfect situation. And what's even more perfect about it is that Bryce, well, they're expecting now, but he and his wife are planning on having several kids. And so that pony's going to get to raise a whole pile of kids. So there's then where we come to the story about the kids talking to my wife. For some reason or another, they got talking about PonyBoy this morning, and they got kind of worried, the kids did, because they invested a lot of effort into him and a lot of love, and they got kind of worried about PonyBoy's future. Well, what about when Bryce's daughter grows up? And they said, and my wife said, well, he's planning on having several kids, and that pony will get to raise a bunch of kids. And they said, well, but what about when he raises all Bryce's kids? What's going to happen? And she said to him, well, Bryce will sell him to somebody or trade him to somebody. And chances are, if you want to know the truth, that horse will probably die on that ranch, because by the time Bryce's kids are growing up, there'll be some other cowboy there that's starting a family, and Bryce will trade PonyBoy off for a bit and a pair of new chaps or some damn thing. But anyway, she said Bryce will trade him off, but it'll be to a good family that's people that are going to love him like you guys did and take good care of him. And they said, well, what about if that person sells him to somebody that's not going to be good to him? And these are the things we have to think about. And she said, no, Bryce wouldn't do that. That's why your dad sold PonyBoy to Bryce, because he knew that PonyBoy would always have a good home, because Bryce will sell him to somebody that'll love him and be good to him, who will then sell him to somebody that'll love him and be good to him, etc., etc. And being that ponies live until they're 119 years old, potlicker might outlive me. Anyway, that goes in to what I was trying to say about why advance a horse. And she was explaining to the kids this, that's your job when you're with a horse, is to ensure that the horse will always have a better life, no matter where he goes, when he's with you, and no matter where he goes from you. That you advance that horse, and you make that horse into something that somebody's going to love more and take better care of, because it's such a great horse. And she told him that, that's what you kids did. You kids put a bunch of effort into PonyBoy and took him from, he was a little jerk is what he was. I liked him anyway, but he was a little jerk. And they made him from a little jerk that I'd let my wild coyote kids ride into a perfect gentleman that Bryce let his baby girl ride. Bryce has a different way of thinking about raising kids than I do. And so he wanted, and his baby was pretty little. I don't know if I'd have turn my babies loose on the original PonyBoy. But she was explaining to him, that's our job as horsemen. That's our part of it. Yeah, if you're showing, there's the money involved in the winnings and the fame and the winnings, and And for me, there's not a hell of a lot of money, nor much fame, but make my living doing it. Yeah, there's a lot of other parts of it. There's a lot of it that we do for ourselves. But the most base part of our relationship with horses is making their life better in the future. And that's something we all really need to keep track of and think about all the time. Am I doing what's right for this horse? Am I doing what's right for me? Maybe. Am I doing what's right for the show industry? Am I doing what's right for my checkbook? Am I doing blah, blah, blah? Maybe all those things. But am I doing what's right for this horse? Is he going to go on from me when he leaves my care? Are things going to be better for him because of the effort I put into him? That's something really important that people need to keep in mind. And I'm glad she got a chance to have that conversation with those kids. And the littlest one, before she told me any of this, he was explaining that to me while I was riding a colt in the round pen, and he explains things. And he was explaining it to me, and I thought, what in the world is this goofy little kid talking about? And he's kind of goofy. But then later this evening, after it all come around, I realized what he was talking about, and that had a big impact on him. He was thinking real seriously about what our job is with horses. And so if you want to know the real reason why you advance a horse, that's why, is to make life better for him. And that's it.